Hello guys and gals and welcome. So today we're going to be looking at another unique item, and this unique item is specific to Javazons. It is obviously Amazon only, and it has some very interesting effects which make it extremely strong for Lightning Fury Amazons. It is known as Thunderstroke. The Thunderstroke Javelins are very nice. And I'll explain why. So you can find them in ethereal form, and it is very sad because they do not have the replenishes quantity effect. And this is a very big downside to these particular javelins. And this means that if you find a pair of T-strokes and you use them, ethereal, as beautiful as they are, they're such a pretty blue, and you throw them all away, they will be broken forever. And sadly, this means that you just can't use ethereal T-strokes. They have to be non-ethereal. And just to demonstrate this fact, I'm going to go ahead and break them, which is it's a sad thing to do. I don't really like doing this, but you know, when you find an ethereal item which unfortunately cannot be utilized in any specific way, there's really no way around it. You could use them just simply as a melee attack, but do keep in mind that even with melee, they will eventually break. There was a patch a long time ago, basically, where they added that when you were fighting in melee, it would reduce the number of javelins eventually. And over a long period of time of using them in melee, they will eventually break. And unfortunately, they are not repairable. So I just wanted to demonstrate this before we go on and we talk about the item itself.
Good day.
And this is actually a big downside to the Thunderstroke Javelins, is that they cannot be ethereal, and they cannot be that awesome physical damage that you get from the ethereal versions. So let's talk about the Thunderstroke Matriarchal Javelins, and we're going to have a little bit of fun with this because these are some interesting javelins. They're very powerful, specifically for Lightning Fury Amazons. So if you've never played a Lightning Fury Amazon, they are basically using this skill right here, which throws a javelin, and when it hits a target, it fires out a bunch of lightning bolts to all the targets nearby, and it is very multiplicative with the skill Pierce, which causes you to throw one javelin. It'll pierce through 5 or 6 monsters, and each one will shoot out the certain number of lightning bolts that this skill dictates, dishing out a massive amount of damage to all monsters nearby. Now the problem with this skill is that it is lightning damage, and if you are going up against a monster that is lightning resistant or highly lightning resistant, it can be an issue. And this is where Thunderstroke Javelins come in. They have some very nice stats, and let's start to go over this item together, shall we? So right off the bat, we have a 105 to 198 damage, throwing damage, by the way, and one-handed damage of 90 to 162. So if you are using these on a Javazon, you're probably going to have the jab skill, which is just something that you can use for those monsters that are lightning immune. We also have a 20% chance to cast level 14 lightning on striking, and I do want to go over this real quick. So lightning is a sorceress skill, and at level 14 it does 1 to 194 damage. Wait, no, 14? Yeah, 14. 1 to 181 damage, which is roughly, if you cut it in half, is roughly about 90 damage average of lightning damage that's added to your attack on a 20% cast, which isn't a massive amount of damage, but lightning does pierce, so it's going to hit everything in a straight path of wherever it goes, so it's interesting. The dexterity and strength requirements on this are pretty high because it is a Matriarchal Javelin. It's 151 to 107, and the level requirement is level 69. So much higher than its cousin, which is the Titan's Revenge Ceremonial Javelin, which is only level 42 and has much lower requirements. So you're not going to be able to use T-strokes before you're going to be able to use Titans. Even if you plan to eventually use T-strokes over Titans, if that's your choice, you are probably going to be using Titans first before you get here. Now, T-strokes does have some variables on it, and most notably the first variable, which is really, really bad, is the plus to javelin skills. So it varies from +2 to +4, and if you were going to use these, you would probably want to make sure you get to +4, because if you take a look at Titans, Titans always has +4. So in regards to the plus to skills, especially if you're comparing between Titans and T-stroke, as most people do, the +4 to javelin and spear skills is going to be very clutch here, because not only is it going to increase your damage on your lightning fury, it's also going to increase your damage on your jab or your fend or whatever other abilities you're using along with this, like for instance charge strike, which is one that a lot of the Amazons love to use for single target attacks. We also have 15% increased attack speed, which is very nice. It's always nice to have increased attack speed on your item. We also have 200% enhanced damage, which does vary between 150 to 200%. And I did forget to say that your javelins are not socketable. I said this in the last video, but I didn't say it in this one. You cannot socket javelins, and this is very unfortunate, and it is a big downside to javelins. We also have a huge amount of lightning damage just slapped onto this weapon of 1 to 511. So a pretty nice, just beefy amount of extra lightning damage just slapped onto the weapon, which is going to have an effect on the amount of damage that is outputted with these guys. Now, granted, if you're having trouble with the lightning immune, it's not going to help you. So all the lightning damage that this is doing is going to be for naught. We also have a very awesome effect here of negative 15% to enemy lightning resistance. Now, negative 15% to enemy lightning resistance is a lot more powerful than I think people realize. And to demonstrate this, I'm going to bring up a calculator, and we're going to do some simple calculations. And I'm going to bring this up on camera so you guys can see it. I believe I already have the calculator in here somewhere. Bink. Alright, so here is the calculator. And let's pretend you have a monster who has 90% lightning resistance, which is common. It's actually fairly common for a monster to have 90% lightning resistance because of base resistances along with things like lightning enchantment. So say for instance you have a monster who has a base 20% lightning resistance and he gets a 75% bonus from being lightning enchanted. You're talking about 20 plus 75, which is 95% lightning resistance. So he's not immune, but he's very, very lightning resistant. And you know what? Let's use 95%. All right, so let's say that we have an average damage of 1,000 per bolt of lightning. All right, but we're going to, because basically we do about 2,000 per bolt because we built up our lightning Javazon really, really powerful. But we only do about 1,000 to an average because it's 1 to 2,000, right? So let's cut it in half to 1,000. All right, so we throw one spear. And one spear pierces 4 targets, all right? And we release, let's say, 25 bolts per target. So we're looking at 25 times 4 equals 100. And then we have times 1,000 is the amount of average damage we do, which is 100,000 damage, all right? Now, this is kind of spread out over the field, but we're just going to take this 100,000 damage, all right? Because we're going to subtract 95% from this because the monster is 95% immune to our damage, which means that our 100,000 damage has now been drastically decreased to only 5,000, which is absolutely terrible. And if we were using Titans, this would be the case. But because we are using T-strokes, we need to run this calculation again. So instead of 100,000 minus 95%, we are going to do 95% minus the 15% on the T-strokes, which is 80. So now we're going to do 100,000 minus 80%. And we are looking at 20,000 damage. Notice that our damage has literally, what, 5, 10, 15, 20? Multiplied by 4. Our damage has literally gone up 4 times just for having that negative 15% on the T-strokes. So even if you don't plan to use T-Strokes as your main javelin, even if Titans is the one that you would prefer, keep in mind that T-Stroke's negative lightning resistance is a lot more powerful than you think, especially when dealing with monsters that are very close to lightning immune. Now, it doesn't do as much on those monsters that are very, very low on the lightning resistance. Like, say for instance, we had a monster that was 0% lightning resistance, right? So we did 100,000 damage to a 0 lightning resistance monster. Well, it's going to do 100,000 damage no matter what. But if we add in T-Strokes, it will actually reduce his resistance to -15, which means we get a plus 15% bonus damage, which means we're adding on 15,000 damage onto that 100. So again, not a terrible thing. Now, T-Strokes is, I think, arguably the better choice for Javazons who are in a position where they need the negative lightning resistance. But Titans, I think, is the better choice when you don't need the negative lightning resistance. So if you're in Hell difficulty, you're fighting a lot of monsters which are very close to lightning immune, T-Strokes is definitely going to win out over them. But if you're in like Nightmare difficulty or normal difficulty and all the monsters have next to no lightning resistance whatsoever, or you're running, like, for instance, you have an Infinity and all the monsters are getting a ridiculously low lightning resistance already, or maybe you're running Griffins, or maybe you have some lightning facets and you already have a massive amount of negative lightning resistance, this could potentially add on to that negative lightning resistance. But the issue here is that do you really need 15% more? Like, if you've already got a Griffins and some lightning facets in an armor or something like that, you know, you're already running maybe like -30 or -40% enemy lightning resistance. Do you really need another extra 15? Or if you already have an Infinity, which is reducing all the monsters' resistances already, do you really need another -15? And that's kind of the thing here. Now, the lowest you could possibly go is -100. So if you had a monster that was literally 99% lightning immune, and you had -199% to enemy lightning resistance, they would be at -100%, which means they would take double damage from your lightning attacks, which is essentially what we're looking at here. So if you were specifically trying to get down to that -100%, Titans could definitely, Titans is definitely not going to help you there. Thunderstroke is going to be the one that's going to get you lower on that list. Now, I have seen some people do some very interesting things, like they'll use a Thunderstroke along with a Jeweler's Shield of Deflecting, and they'll put 4 lightning facets in the Jeweler's Shield of Deflecting for -5% per jewel, so 5, 10, 15, 20, plus the 15 on the Thunderstrokes, which is 35. So, you know, you've got -35% there with just 2 items, and then you could tag it along with a Griffin's Eye, which I believe spawns as high as 20. So you're looking at 35, 45, 55. 55%, -55% resistance is going to let you kill most monsters fairly easily. And if you tag that along with an Infinity, which will break some immunities, this is where things get really interesting. So let's say, for instance, you are going up against a monster that is 110% lightning resistant, which means he's immune. The -15% enemy lightning resistance on T-Strokes does not work against an immune monster, but Infinity does. And it works at a reduced amount. So since we are talking about resistances, let me bring up my resistance formulas here. So here we have Conviction, which is -150% resistance at max, and it is a 20% effectiveness versus immunes, right? So if you were running Infinity, which I believe is level 13 Conviction, I want to say. Let's take a look at level 13 Conviction, shall we? So we're going to pull up the Infinity Rune Word, and it's level 12 Conviction. So I was 1 off there. So at level 12, we are looking at a negative resistance of 85. So let's pull the calculator back up. Don't even know why I put it away. So let's pull the calculator back up, and we're going to take one more look at this. So we've got 85% is what the level 12 conviction gives. So 85 minus 80%. So we're looking at 17-point reduction of resistances. All right. So take that monster that has 110% lightning resistance. We subtract 17 from him. That brings him down to 93. Now that he is broken, the T-strokes comes in, because this effect on the T-strokes only works if the immunity is broken. It has to be broken. All right, so taking that into account, now we can look at the 15% on the T-strokes, and we can subtract that also. And now you see that that 93, or that 110% resistant monster is now 78% resistant. And this is a really big benefit for the lightning Amazons in general. So I hope if you're looking at this particular javelin, that you really take into account the fact that it is very good against those lightning resistance monsters. Another downside of the Thunderstrokes over Titans is the stack size. So Thunderstrokes are 80, and Titans is 140. So it's a much larger stack size with Titans, which means you're going to be running back to town a lot with Thunderstrokes. I feel like with Thunderstrokes, it would be a good idea if you had maybe 2 extra stacks in your Herodic cube that you could just pull out, and then when you go back to town, you just take out all 3, repair them, and then put your best one back on first. And just in general, it's a little bit of micromanaging hassle to constantly keep repairing the javelins, and I think that's why Titans are just so nice, because they have the increased stack size. But I've always said that it's very nice to have both. So if you are a Javazon, I feel like Titans is the better choice on any monster that doesn't have high lightning resistance. And then I feel like Thunderstroke is the better choice on any monster that does have high lightning resistance. However, Titans can be the better choice in general when you're going up against a monster that is completely immune to lightning and you can't break them. Because it has relatively high physical damage, especially if you upgrade it into the Matriarchal Javelin, which is higher in damage than the Titans. You'll see here that the Titans Revenge Matriarchal Javelin has 248 on the throw damage and 212 on the top end for the one-handed, whereas the T-Strokes only has 162 on the top end for the one-handed and 198 on the throw damage. So you definitely get a bit more physical damage with the Titans in general. Anyway, as always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, and I hope this was a little helpful. And before I sign off, let me just show you the beautiful blue color of the T-Strokes. I absolutely love the blue color of the T-Strokes. Just an absolutely sexy weapon all around. Anyway, thanks for watching.